We've got a pretty heavy story coming up here, and there are some confronting images coming your way. So I'm giving you warnings to start off with, including bullets hitting ground, not people, but grounds, including obviously starving people. So I'm just giving you a warning before we do that because, yeah, it's pretty grim, but it's important for us to have a conversation around what's going on. So this is Jeremy Bowen, who's been in the Middle East for about 1 million years. He's probably as old as the Sphinx, actually, working for the BBC. A very good reporter, obviously not allowed into Gaza, but he has a story where he first focuses on what's happening in Gaza about a particular starving boy as one example of many.
This image of a starving boy and his mother in Gaza has been seen by millions around the world. His name is Mohammed, he's 18 months old, and he weighs 6 kilos.
Fuck. I just wanted to pause on that. Not for dramatic effect, to make sure you heard that. He weighs 6 kilos. 6 kilos.
His name is Mohammed, he's 18 months old, and he weighs 6 kilos. His mother, Hidayah al-Mutawi, has lost her home and her husband, who was killed, and Mohammed and many others will not survive much longer unless unrestricted aid starts flowing into Gaza.
He can't stand up on his feet or sit because of the fatigue. We can't get baby formula from Mo because the prices are too high. I go from one hospital to another trying to get him formula, but I can hardly find any.
So story number one. This is a sequence of the story that I'm going to play off to you. So the journalists can't get into Gaza, but where they can go is up here to the border of Gaza in Israel, like a tourist site, to look at what's happening in Gaza.
So we went to a spot overlooking Gaza, a vantage point in the frontline town of Sderot, where Hamas attacked and killed Israeli civilians on the 7th of October 2023. Israelis come here to look at the war, only a few miles away. It was hazy, so it was hard to see, and the steady sound of Israeli artillery was carried away on the wind. Since my last visit, vending machines have been installed if anyone needs refreshment.
So, of course, people are starving in Gaza a couple of k's away. But if you want a Coke, we've got you sorted. And whilst you're here, as you can see right now, why don't you take a selfie? Just to make sure you can remember the moment of this tourist site.
From here, it feels like looking out of one world into another. Not distant, but remote and isolated.
All right, we go into another part of this story now, that's Jeremy Bowen. And again, this is him talking about what's happening in Gaza. Trigger warnings here. You do see bullets hitting the ground, not hitting people. But what is happening is people are queuing up for food and the IDF is shooting at them. And if you look into the sand, you will see the sand kicking up where the bullets are hitting just above the heads of people. This part of the story then goes into talking to Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar, and he is a former Green Beret who went over to Israel as American as a professional soldier, and he's come back with reports of war crimes. This is about 2.5 minutes. We can watch the whole thing, or Chewie, if you want to cut in, let me know and we can cut in.
Death. This is not a battlefield, though it might look like one. It's a food distribution point in Gaza. Bullets are kicking up the sand as men wait to get food. It's one of 4 sites run by the so-called Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, a joint Israeli-US scheme they say replaces the UN and keeps food away from Hamas. This video is of the foundation's armed American security guards opening fire.
Another warning here. This is actually the Lieutenant Colonel who was videoing this when he was working there. And there are some voices in the background that say something like, oh, you got one. So again, just be aware. I'm just giving you a trigger. We don't see anything, but it's confronting at the least.
I think you hit one.
It was filmed by a US soldier who signed up for the operation in Gaza after he retired and left, he says, when he saw American colleagues and the IDF killing civilians. The soldier is Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar, a Special Forces veteran of the U.S. Army's Green Berets. He's in Washington. I spoke to him from a spot just near the Gaza border.
I witnessed the Israeli Defense Forces shooting at the crowds of Palestinians. I witnessed the Israeli Defense Forces firing a main gun tank round from the Merkava tank into a crowd of people, destroying a car of civilians that were simply driving away from the site. I witnessed mortar rounds being fired at the crowds of people to keep them controlled.
As a professional soldier with a very long career, what was your professional opinion of what was happening?
My professional opinion of how the sites were established was what I would describe as amateur. Inexperienced, untrained, no idea of how to conduct operations of this magnitude. That would be my most benign assessment. In my most frank assessment, I would say that they're criminal. In my entire career, have I never witnessed the level of brutality and use of indiscriminate and unnecessary force against a civilian population, an unarmed, starving population. I've never witnessed that in all of the places I've been deployed to war until I was in Gaza at the hands of the IDF and U.S. contractors.
Based on the knowledge you have, do you think that you were a witness then to war crimes? I think you're saying that very emphatically.
Without question, I witnessed war crimes. I witnessed war crimes being by the Israeli Defense Forces, without a doubt, using artillery rounds, mortar rounds, firing tank rounds into unarmed civilians is a war crime.
So you've got now, and I'm actually going to add one other clip in. I've chosen to do it. In fact, I'll take it down first and come back.
I just want to jump in real quick to talk about the specificity of this guy being a former Green Beret.
Yep.
Now, the Green Berets have a very distinct mission in the US Army. Yes, they're special forces, but their specialization is in insurgency and counterinsurgency. So they will go into a country and train up rebels or anti-government forces. They'll often go in before an invasion. They're the guys that went in and helped the Kurds in northern Iraq during the Gulf War and that sort of thing. So I think if he's pointing out that this is a bad idea, this is not how you conduct anti-insurgent operations, and this is not how you behave, this is how you create insurgents, I think smart people would listen to him.
There's something else I want to show you because, and I'm not even going to get into, well, it's not everyone, but that's a decorated soldier showing his face who has been there, coming back, giving his experience. And just like everyone would say, it's not going to be every Israeli, but then to look at, so that's the war crimes happening by soldiers. And then you've got some citizens of Israel. So this is an Israeli mother of 8 children. And what they do is they try and break into where, she's actually trying to push past people there. They try and break into areas where the food trucks are going. And if they can get into the areas like here where the food trucks are going, then what the military does is they have to shut down the entrance.
So have you managed to block the gate now?
Yeah, the gate is closed, as you can see here. We closed it.
Absolutely.
And the gate will remain closed until they evacuate us if they manage to.
The aid is being
So
blocked.
basically
People
they're
are
getting there
starving.
on purpose, causing a scene to cause the military to shut down the area because they are a security risk. And the reason they're doing it is to get the gate shut so that the aid cannot go through. And then, of course, you've got other Israelis and other settlers as well doing other things to aid trucks.
In the ensuing weeks, local media identifies some activists from the group ransacking aid trucks. Individuals within the Israeli forces reportedly tipped them off about where to target. Young settlers also stepped in.
Now, I think I
shower
remember.
of assholes.
Yeah, I remember that footage from quite a while ago, so they're obviously showing things on. But I just wanted to also highlight that, you know, the soldiers are doing something, but then civilians are doing things as well. There's two other things I wanted to show you. Again, people be aware, confronting, because we're hearing about starving. I actually asked, what does the body need to do to starve to death? Just so we're aware, all right? This report is 2 years old, or 1 year old, sorry. Probably means it's like 1 year and 1 month old, because then YouTube says it's 2 years straight away and into its second year. And I just wanted to play for us what happens to the body to starve to death. I know, confronting, but it's MSNBC, so there's not going to be, it's safe for work, so to speak.
When a person is deprived of food for a prolonged period, meaning they're not taking in enough calories to keep up with the body's energy needs, starvation begins to set in. The body relies on stored fats for energy, and within a few days with no food, the human body essentially starts feeding on itself. The body begins to consume the things inside of it to keep us alive, like carbohydrates, fat, the protein parts of tissues. And while the body's working overtime to provide those basic energy needs, other vital organs are being ignored. The heart, the lungs, the ovaries do not get their necessary nutrients. Heart function decreases, and the heart can actually shrink to less than half its size in starvation. Kidney function is impaired. The immune system weakens, meaning a starving person becomes more susceptible to other deadly diseases. The brain is deprived of the proper energy it needs to function. That causes mood swings and difficulty concentrating. Eventually, the body has nothing left to scavenge except for muscle and bones. You become gaunt and weak. There's an ache that comes with extreme hunger, which causes acute physical and mental distress. But that doesn't last long, because your body's already wasted away and soon your heart will fail. That is death by starvation.
I know I can see people in the chat kind of saying too much, too much. I hear you, and if you need to go, go. But I guess not to try and be too much of a activist here is us learning about this and figuring out what happens is so small and insignificant versus what's actually happening to people in the Middle East right now, in Gaza right now. The thing about that story, which is interesting as well, is it's at least a year old. And at the end of that story, they started talking about what's happening in Gaza now. So that means 12, 13, 14, 15 months later, how much worse it is. There's one more thing I want to show you, Chewie. Again, confronting team. In fact, I had a better clip than this. When I say better, it was more accurate. This is about starvation. This is about what the body does, because I want us to know. I want to know, and I want us to know, so we know what we're talking about when these horrific things happen. I had a different clip from this. I couldn't find it again on Twitter, so I'll play this because there's one thing that the other clip said, which he hints to at this, but I'll give you the details. Here we go. This is about the process of starvation.
Each time I go is much, much worse than I expected. On this most recent occasion, I have spent a month out there. I returned 4 days ago. The malnutrition in particular, I mean, many things were worse, but the malnutrition in particular was really quite appalling. Patients of mine died as a result of their malnutrition because of their inability to heal following the major injuries and the major surgery they were requiring. I had children on the pediatric intensive care unit. Children up there were dying. So the malnutrition was really unimaginably bad and much worse than I'd expected.
Now, what he said was the body not able to heal. The other clip that I saw today, which I was silly not to bookmark, was there was a doctor talking about children and gunshot wounds, bullet wounds. And you get to a point where you're so malnourished that the body won't heal them. So the body stops the ability to heal, which means if you've had an accident or an injury, and like this doctor said, you have surgery, the body can't heal itself. The other thing is that first story with Jeremy Bowen talking about getting food, and now it's, sorry to be blunt, but it's too late. Because in the point of malnutrition that many of these people are, their intestinal tracts stop working, never to start working again. So that happens.
This is a
the
known
end.
thing.
Yeah. But I know that maybe I'm learning things today, but I guess I wanted us to have a look at a soldier identifying war crimes, civilians contributing to starvation, the starvation that's happening, and what it actually means to starve to death. Because it's one of those, as much as it's hard, we probably shouldn't look away. Chewie.
There's not a single person that's watching us now or listening in the podcast and that sort of thing that understands what it is to be this hungry.
Yeah, of course.
We have no measure because we've never been in that position. But I remember reading stories and eyewitness accounts from the liberation of the concentration camps at the end of World War II, where they found camps full of starving people, and the reaction was to feed them. And they started feeding them, and people died from being fed because they were so hungry. Their bodies didn't know how to deal with it. Now, I want to put that into perspective of, there was a little bit of good news that planes full of food were going to power drop into Gaza. They weren't going to send the trucks in, but they were going to drop parachutes in. It's a terribly inefficient way to feed people. Like when militaries use power drops, they create a zone, they control it, they're expecting to come in. When you do it in somewhere like Gaza, 11 people got injured by falling food pellets. Starving people ripped into those food pellets and immediately started to feed themselves, and I can only guess what happened next.
Yeah. There's something
uncontrolled.
There's something I learned today about drops, and this really surprised me. One of those big, massive planes that's rolling the things out the back, those planes can carry as much as one lorry. So the amount of food and aid that they're dropping from a plane, think about the cost, the difficulty, all those things to load a plane, a Hercules style plane up, fly it, get across, drop it, versus getting in a truck and driving it across the border and then turning around and getting another load and driving it across the border. So whilst sometimes a drop from a plane is essential in some situations, the word you used was inefficient in so many ways. One of those huge planes only carries as much as one lorry. So if Israel were allowing the aid in, dozens of lorries. Yeah, so when Israel says, look, we're allowing drops to come in, yeah, what, for every one plane and the time and the effort and the money to set, you could have probably sent 50 lorries in. So yeah, performative, Chewie.
Yeah, the UN should be manning those checkpoints, and the UN should be keeping Israeli settlers the fuck out of there. The UN should be controlling the aid convoys. The UN should be distributing the food to the hungry and the medicine to the people that need it. But we don't get that because the UN is fucking hamstrung by the ghosts of the Cold War, the ghosts of the winners of World War II. So we get to watch this instead. Like, someone that is that hungry is closer to being an animal in their reactions than to being a human. You don't think rationally. If you're that close to food, if you're that close to water, if you are that hungry, you will not listen to instructions. You won't follow cues. And so when the food's being protected by trigger-happy fucking mercenaries from the US who think it's fun to shoot at starving people, you are going to get deaths. When those people are gathering for food and medicine under the guns of the IDF, young people that have been raised from birth to dehumanize the Palestinians, is it any surprise that every now and then someone will loose off a main cannon round from a Merkava tank into a group of people? That these people, snipers hunt these people? And at every step of the way, the Israeli regime has lied to us. They lied to us about what happened on October 7th. They lied to us about the negotiations with Hamas. They lied to us that Hamas had never offered up the hostages. They've lied to us about the deliberate targeting of aid workers and reporters. They've lied to us about massacring a convoy full of ambulances that they buried in a mass grave. At every stage, when the Israeli forces have told us that something, it has been proven to be a lie almost every time. So why would we trust them now? Why is it that we can see this imagery, that this Green Beret can very clearly say what I saw was a war crime, but our own foreign minister hasn't quite opened up his mind yet?
Yeah.
Hasn't quite decided whether it is or it isn't, because someone in a courtroom hasn't told him so yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
This stuff is sickening. This stuff is infuriating. This stuff will stay with me for the rest of my life. And I, hand on heart, do not know how I will react to the next Israeli I meet.
I did say tonight there'd be some heavy stuff to give you warnings, but I actually believe in the don't look away thing as well. I think it's important that we know what we're fighting for. You know, we can all say free Palestine. We can all, you know, we can get the slogans out there. So I'm not throwing shade on any of that, but I think it's also important to know what we're doing it for and why. And I think that's what I wanted to do tonight. But I think we're going to leave it there for the night. You know, it does feel strange to kind of go into a bouncy song to leave, but we'll put that on and we'll.
I will say one thing,
Sure.
one other thing, because it is heavy to look at this stuff. Throughout the country on Saturday, there will be some sort of protest or remembrance action.
Yeah.
Whether you've gone multiple times since this whole thing started or whether you've never gone at all, go.
Yeah, good point.
Be seen. Be one of the people that stands up and says, I know what's going on and I won't look away.
Yeah.
Be someone that the Palestinian members of this country can see that there are people standing with them, and be someone that our government will look at and go, oh shit, we might have read this wrong. We need to do something. And that takes people. But I guarantee you, when you come away from something like that and you know you're not alone, you know you've done a good thing, you will feel better.